Alright, so the endocrine system. So basically, we're going to look at the endocrine system and just look at the different glands, look at what it is, and just the different processes that are taking place within the endocrine system. And we're also going to be comparing it to the nervous system. And basically, the nervous system and the endocrine system, they have a little relationship, let's just say that. And we're going to be comparing the endocrine system to the nervous system. For free resources, you can just go ahead and check those out right there. And then you also have the email for tutoring down at the bottom right here. Um, these are lessons, and you can get more free resources here. And this is the study guide that you can find on here, as well as the rep study method as well. Okay, so the endocrine system. So basically, it is a system of ductless glands that produce and release hormones directly into the bloodstream to regulate and coordinate the body's function. So that means that there are no ducts, there's no tube, there's no vessels. It is just released directly into the bloodstream, right? And basically, the endocrine system uses what we call hormones, and hormones are basically chemical messengers that are used to transport these different messages around the body, essentially, right? So the endocrine system produces hormones, and those hormones travel directly into the bloodstream. The hormones are the chemical messengers that tell the body exactly what to do, depending on the gland that is coming from, whether it be the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, the adrenal gland, depending on the glands, because the glands are what makes up the endocrine system. What is going to be produced is the hormone. So hormones are produced from glands, and glands make up the endocrine system. And when those hormones are released, they regulate and coordinate the body's function. So if it means increasing something, decreasing something, controlling the blood sugar, it's all works together to simply maintain homeostasis in the body basically. Now, the differences between the endocrine and the nervous system is that one main difference is that endocrine system uses hormones basically, right? So hormones are what are produced in the endocrine system, and in the nervous system, what we have instead is neurotransmitters. So basically, neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers in the nervous system, and then in the endocrine system, hormones are the chemical messengers. The endocrine system uses glands, while the nervous system uses nerve impulses in order to transmit the message along the nerves. The nervous system is also lot faster. If you ever heard of the all or nothing theory or whatever, but basically all or nothing means that that's basically when a neuron fires. If it meets the threshold, it will fire and it will generate the message and it will travel along the neuron in order to get the response. So basically, the hormones are carried in the blood, and for the nervous system, they simply use electrical impulses, and those travel along the nerves, and those are what produces those rapid short-term responses. Now, based on the endocrine system, we know that there are different glands, and some of those glands are the pineal gland, the pituitary gland. So basically, the pineal and the pituitary gland, both of them are found within the brain, within in that region. Basically, you have the thyroid in the throat, and then the thymus a little below the thyroid. The adrenal glands are found on top of the kidneys, and then the pancreas is basically in between. And then, of course, you have the ovary, which is in the reproductive area. So basically, each gland produces a particular hormone to stimulate a particular function, basically. So depending on the gland, a particular hormone, a hormone specific to the function of that gland, will be secreted, basically. And we know that the pituitary gland is very much in the brain, thyroid in the throat, and the parathyroid glands behind the thyroid gland. So if we look here, the parathyroid gland is behind the thyroid gland right here. The pancreas, as I said before, adrenal, ovaries, testes, all that stuff. So basically you can see where the locations are within the different glands and where they are in the human body. And then if we look at the hormones now, so basically one of the easiest ones to remember are basically the pituitary gland, and that one's found in the brain. And then you have the pancreas, and the reason why the pancreas is so significant because everyone kind of knows about blood sugar. We know about insulin, um, people who have diabetes, and you know that insulin, glucagon, they all play a role in regulating the blood sugar, basically. So when it gets too high, insulin is produced. When it gets too low, we we secrete glucagon, which basically brings back up the blood sugar level, basically. So there are different hormones, and you probably won't remember all of them, but yeah, you just have to at least remember one, or just remember the basics behind it. But pancreas, so insulin, glucagon, that one is also very popular on the exam. They like the insulin, glucagon, they always bring up the blood sugar, so that's popular. The pituitary gland, because it's the master gland, controls basically all the other glands within the body. That's also very significant. So it would be good to know the pituitary gland. So we're talking about the growth hormones, and as you can see, the function. This one is a major one. It has a growth hormone, the follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. It does a lot. This one does a lot. And then you have thyroxine with the thyroid gland, and basically all of them are very much significant, and all of them play a very big role in the different functions. So basically with the gland, they all secrete a very specific hormone, and they all serve very specific function. Then exocrine and the endocrine glands. So basically, this is pretty simple. Endocrine glands, those are the ones that release the hormones directly into the bloodstream. Because the very first thing that we said was that the endocrine glands, we said that those are ductless, meaning that they are released directly into the bloodstream. There's no vessel, there's no duct, they are just released directly into the bloodstream. Exocrine, they release these substances through the ducts. So that's basically one of the major differences. So one is ductless and one is not. One has ducts. The chemical messengers of the endocrine glands. Then we have the exocrine glands, talking about enzymes, mucus, sweat, saliva, digestive juices. You have all of those as part of the exocrine glands, and different target areas, different speeds, different functions, and very different examples. So basically, there's a difference between endocrine and exocrine glands, but exocrine, the function is not necessarily on the exocrine, it's more on the endocrine glands, because these are the more, I won't say the more important ones, but they're the more, these are the focus. Basically the focus is on endocrine, and the most they would ask is just compare and just maybe mention what's the main difference between both of these, but this is the focus, basically. So yeah, so back to the different glands. um so basically, blood sugar, that's a very popular one. As I said before, and they love insulin and they love glucagon because this is something that's very popular, especially for people who have diabetes. Because the insulin is going to lower the blood sugar and the glucagon is going to raise it. If we're talking about water balance, then you have the pituitary gland producing ADH, and the ADH increases water reabsorption in the kidney and it prevents dehydration. Pyroxine and adrenaline, both of them help to regulate temperature. It involves both the thyroid and the adrenal glands. It increases the metabolic um, activity and heat production, and overall maintaining homeostasis. So basically, all of these processes right here, the goal is simply to maintain overall homeostasis in all of them. Even if it's a different process, the goal is simply always homeostasis, like in all cases. Then you have the metabolic rate. You have thyroxine, and that is produced by the thyroid gland, and it basically controls the speed of chemical reactions in the cell, and it basically just to regulate the energy use overall. So if we're looking at an example, negative and positive feedback. So basically, negative feedback, we're basically reducing the original stimulus to maintain balance, while positive feedback is enhancing the stimulus until a specific event is completed. Right, so if the thyroxine levels are going to rise, the pituitary gland reduces TSH, and that's the thyroid stimulating hormone. And overall, it's just to reduce it basically. As I said before, negative feedback, we want to reduce it in order to get homeostasis. Positive feedback, we want to increase it to get homeostasis. And the positive feedback one is a little bit different because if we're looking at childbirth, and oxytocin is what's released during childbirth, and that it basically increases in the body in order to get more contractions basically, and the whole point is to get the baby out. So the whole point behind oxytocin, we're increasing it in the bloodstream, we're causing more contractions, the baby is going to be delivered, and therefore the body can go back to homeostasis once the baby is out basically. That would be positive feedback. So we're just comparing them. Negative, just remember that it reduces the stimulus. Positive increases the stimulus, and that stimulus is basically the hormone that we're talking about in this case, right? And overall, the goal behind the endocrine system, the entire system, is to always maintain homeostasis. So it's going to use these hormones either to increase or decrease the levels within the bloodstream, but the goal is always homeostasis.